Hello and welcome.
There he is.
Sorry about taking all that much time to do all that. We're glad that you're here, and
Do you want me to do anything?
I want to say hello to everyone that's listening in live on the internet right now on YouTube. And they're not seeing your face or mine. They're seeing what's on the screen over there. And we'll change it from time to time, but what we're going to be getting into tonight, obviously, is A Course in Miracles. And I'm real excited that you guys are here and that we're going to be kind of venturing into it. There are some of us here that have kind of been with us through a few weeks. I know Susan's been through a few introductions. Barbara's been through at least one or two, and Dave's been through one or two, maybe one. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But I'm going to be doing another video that'll really kind of get into more of an introduction about how it came into being and those kinds of things, because we've had a chance to talk about those things. But tonight I'd really like to talk about why, we're getting involved in taking on a book like this called A Course in Miracles. My name's Brother T, for all those out there. Hello. And I don't necessarily like the video. It's kind of a crotch shot there.
Yeah, it was.
So we need to get another spot for this, maybe, up here or.
Do you want me to hold?
Okay. Hold it over your head. Don't hold it, because that's not going to work.
Okay. This is working.
That's good enough. It's okay. It's just first try, and so this will be for anybody that's at home that wants to kind of watch what we're doing. And I can edit it a little bit too. And I'll work on the audio next week so we'll get a better audio. Right now we're picking up kind of a crappy audio too. So why A Course in Miracles? Why are you here? John? Picking on you.
I'm very interested in A Course in Miracles, so I've done a little bit of reading on books, not The Course in Miracles, but that refer to it and explain it in a more simplified way, which I have read some excerpts from the internet, and it is very difficult, after reading it, to comprehend everything that it's trying to tell you. So I'm thinking this course would probably help to make me better understand it.
Okay. Colleen, did he just drag you along, or?
No, I dragged him along.
Oh, you dragged him along.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it.
We dragged each other, yes.
Okay, I like it. Anybody else why are you here?
Me? I'm here. Oh, no, we're not going to do that. We'll just keep it on you guys. I'm here because I'm so thrilled to have the availability of the schedule that I can be here in class. I think that you are a brilliant teacher.
What'd you say?
You are brilliant. A brilliant teacher. I like to call you a master teacher of A Course in Miracles, and I think that this is one of the most powerful teachings out there, and the way that you teach it makes it approachable and understandable for everyone.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm happy to have a day, and we're kind of reworking our schedules, are we not, so that we can be able to not have two classes on the same night, so that we can pick and choose and be available to support you in bringing forth this teaching.
Okay.
And, okay, one more thing. You shouldn't have asked me. But the other piece of it is a big part of our relationship has been the study of this material. And a big part of our relationship is how we are in the spiritual conversation in our lives. And A Course in Miracles was one of the first books that we studied together early in our relationship. So it's really meaningful to us. And we've sat in class a lot together with groups like this. And I know amazing things happen. I've watched it in our other community where we're having this conversation week after week after week. And just seeing the conversation and the transformation of lives is amazing. So something wonderful happens in a bonding and a connection among the people who show up. So
Thank you.
Okay, now.
So let's take a good deep breath. And as we come to center, we come to the altar within. the center of our being, the heart, if you will. But it's really the center of our being, the center of our consciousness. And we could say that this is where the altar is. The altar where we can be in connection and in mind. We can literally meld with the voice for God. Also called the Holy Spirit, also called the higher self, also called true self. Capital F friend, capital G guide, capital T teacher, the voice of wisdom. It's within each and every one of us. It's the part of us that chooses not to judge. The part of us that chooses only for reality. The part of us that knows only reality. And is not confused or dissuaded or held apart from every thought, everything you express as and who you really are. It is you. And of course in Miracles it says it is nothing more than your right mind. And that's our goal in the process of experiencing miracles. To shift from the consciousness of the world, if you will, to the inner self. This inner self is the voice of truth, the voice within us that is continuously nudging us and guiding us back to this place, this inner altar, this inner space of love. It's a very high calling. It's also a very high vibration. And when we are operating from this energy, from this space, from this place within us, we will notice that we respond and express differently throughout the day, throughout the world, in every experience. We begin to be, as our brother Jesus once said, when you see me, you see the Father. He was referring to that very voice. It is who you really are. So tonight, in this short gathering, as we venture forth into a better understanding of ourselves, we'll allow only that which expresses Christ consciousness, the energy of the Creator in action. Only that which is in harmony with the purpose of being. The Father's will, we could say. Thy will be done, not mine. And may the love and harmony and embrace of this energy enrich the affections of all of our brothers and sisters, and especially those that are with us tonight, as we begin to recognize we truly are family, we are one together in this journey. And so it is.
And so it is.
So thanks for joining. I'm really excited to kind of get this kicked off, and you guys are, I'll try not to scare anybody away, maybe, right? But I do like pushing against maybe some strongly held beliefs that you might have. And when I say me, it's not really me. It's this teaching called A Course in Miracles. So what I'd like to talk about tonight really is why A Course in Miracles. What does it offer? And what's it really answering for us? Let's say that we could call it the current, but I'm going to call it
Purple.
purple. Does
Yeah,
that work
purple
for us?
works well.
I'll call it, yeah, it does. The old world. And what if we could build a bridge from the old world, or what we might call the current world, to well, let's do it this way, new world. What if we could build a bridge to get from the past to a completely new experience of who and what we are? I think that'd be pretty cool. Well, what's the one thing that you have to transcend? Well, let me ask you a different question. Are there anything that's happening in your life at all? You don't have to be specific, but no matter what it is that you find resistance to, no matter what it is that you find, I don't like that too much, no matter what it is you really crazy like a lot, like it's your salvation, maybe winning the lottery, something like that, whatever it might be, think about all the things that you've named as something you don't want in your life or something that you must have in your life. what do you think the common denominator would be in all, if we begin to list those things, what would be the common denominator in all those things?
It's fear.
Fear? That's exactly right. So in order to move from the old world to a new world, we literally have to transcend, we have to move beyond fear, right? And that's really the last threshold. Let me do this a little different. I'm not going to have enough board, I can already see that, but that's okay. So who are you? Another question that we would ask, that the small self asks continuously, is, who am I? So since you guys are enlightened beings and you've been studying the course and you've been working on your own spiritual journey, what's the answer that comes to you when that question comes up? Who am I?
Spiritual being.
Spiritual being?
Wait, spiritual being.
Spiritual being? Anything else? I mean, when you meet people, you say, hey, what's your name? Oh, spiritual being.
Barbara, the spiritual being.
I'm a spiritual being. I like it. Well, I'm going to put it another way, Barbara. I'm going to say that you're a child of God. Can we agree with that? And another way of looking at this self would be, this is the perfect, innocent child of God. It's said in the Course in Miracles that God guarantees your sinlessness. So whoever is at the core of you that was created by God must be perfect. It must be. Because love begets love. Love is perfect, and love only extends itself as perfect love. So we can begin to see a construct of who you be in the new world. Right? And we could say that the first aspect that you begin to recognize yourself through is the voice of love. So there are filters, and I think I woke my wife up about 3 o'clock in the morning this week, a couple of days ago, because I started getting all these things, and I'm not going to get all this on the board because there's too much of it. Right. But so we have some filters that we can begin to look at that are causing us to misperceive our identity, our own divinity, our true self, right? Which is this perfect child of God. So the first one would be, and I'll try not to make this too messy, but what about just society? And we could say the media. Anybody watch the news?
No.
Anybody turn on the radio?
Yeah.
Ever get in the car? Ever go to a restaurant? Ever go to the dentist? The doctor?
Yeah, they have-
Accountant? Almost everywhere you go.
They have it on.
We're bombarded by, and I know nobody here uses computers, but society and media is pervasive. So the first filter that we have to get through is our programming that the society and the media is just hammering us with all the time. There's not a moment that goes by, if you're listening to almost anything on the radio, that they're not, every 3 to 5 minutes, they're doing a commercial. And almost all the commercials you're going to hear are fear-based. You need to avoid this, you got to watch out for this, you better get some insurance for this. you better check in with the doctor for that. We're literally creating the diseases that we're experiencing because we're being programmed to fear our body. And you could literally look at you can go through the list of diseases and look at the symptoms, and you're not going to escape that feeling that, oh my God, I could have that. I mean, that I may, because we all have some of those. Oh, I got a pain in my arm and cancer. I mean, we make up a lot of stuff, and as soon as we focus in on it, right, we give it our power, right? Because as a child of God, all power under heaven and earth is yours. You are the creator. You are creator. You're creating the universe. God created you, and then you created all of your experiences. And you can label them good or bad. But nonetheless, you're the creator. And then there is our education system. We could call it life experiences and education. Anybody got did you get any indoctrination when you went to school? Well, of course you did. Did you get indoctrination before you leave the house to go to school? Right? And then you continue to get indoctrinated all day long while you're in school. And then you graduate school to prepare yourself. Just be prepared. It's tough out there. You got to watch out it's just constantly, it's all based on a premise of the world's happening to us and we're navigating through it. Does that make sense? So another one would be something that we're all familiar with called religion. Now, I know that religion wouldn't practice fear. That wouldn't be a tenet of an all-loving God, right? But it could be the tenet of a God that's made up in man's image, because most of the examples that we would use about things that cause fear for us would be the actions of our brothers and sisters, right? Do you ever lock your car? Are you ever careful where you park? Afraid to go out at night when it's dark? I mean, we have a long list of things that our society, our education, and our religion has taught us to be wary of. In fact, the word worry comes to mind, right? Here's another biggie for me. It would be family. Anybody in your family ever talked about what you should worry about, be afraid of, be prepared for, stay away from, not associate with? Family has a lot of influence, and it's conditioning that it's a filter system, and we're unconscious of all this program. This is programming. These are subroutines that are running in our unconscious mind. We're rarely even conscious that they're running us. But what they're causing us to do is simply to filter through an experience or an idea or something that's out here, and we come to a decision or a judgment based on fear, and it's who we see ourselves as. It defines us. Another filter would be a gender. Men have a different filter system than women do. Women have a communication system and a conditioning around childbirth, and in my experience, in my generation, the language 30, 40 years ago, I'm telling on myself, but you know, that was like, oh, for women, it's like, you gotta get you a good man. Right? I remember my wife telling me that she was talking to some of her friends at the spiritual center when she started telling them about me, and they said, well, does he have a good job? What kind of car does he drive? Does he have life insurance? What kind of house does he own? Does he own a house? It's a setup, right? You gotta get the right stuff. If you're gonna be successful in relationship, you gotta have all the right keys. For men, we have a completely different structure of programming, but it's around, you gotta be tough, you can't be afraid, you have to be courageous, you have to sacrifice for your family, you have to sacrifice for your country. Sacrifice is a big part of it. I think it's for women too, but I think the sacrifice comes, sacrifice my body to give my husband children, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not dissing having children, I've got a couple. Right? What a pain in the, no, I'm just kidding. But they're wonderful. Not quite as wonderful as grandkids, because then you can take them home, but I'm just having fun. But gender is a big filter system, conditioning. And then there's a filter system that I love to talk about, and I'm just going to lump it in as the ego. But there's these are aspects of the ego. There's a controller. We're all familiar with that aspect, right? And then there's a protector. And these are just a couple. And then there's a skeptic. The skeptic is one that's like, oh, you better not go to that Course in Miracles class because those people are crazy. They actually believe that God could guarantee your sinlessness. Oh, hell no, you're a sinner. You better believe it. In fact, you better be afraid of that. You're going straight to hell. You better be careful. Your life could be for nothing. Because there's a devil out there as powerful as God who can take you and keep you from God. You know, I don't think you got to get past 10 to start looking at some of that, and you begin to say, well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. You mean God doesn't love me as much as my parents do? Most of us were fortunate enough to be reared in a home of loving parents. Maybe only one sometimes, or two, but in my life, my mother loved me, but she was too busy. She had 10 kids, and that's okay. But my grandmother, she didn't have her kids were all grown, so she literally gave me the experience of what I call unconditional love earlier in life, where she just didn't have any, I could do anything, and I knew she loved me. And so she became the model that I began to follow and believe in when I began to question whether or not God would be more human than my grandmother. Wrathful, judgeful, vengeful, those kinds of things. So this system is built on a foundation of fear, and this is kind of like the last hurdle, the last filter, to begin to really become to the center of that altar that we were talking about earlier when we were meditating together and praying together. At the very center of our being is this child of God. And there is absolutely no fear there at that altar. You have to leave all of that outside this doorway. All of that has to be left behind. And here's the cool thing about fear, and all of these things, they're all just ideas. And our whole belief system is based on ideas that have been given to us by well-intentioned people and some people who are trying to manipulate it and take advantage of us or whatever, but they've been given to us, and then when we hold an idea, and if enough people hold an idea, it begins to manifest in our world and in our experience, yes? And so then it becomes a belief. And a belief is just an idea that we keep telling ourselves over and over, validating over and over. But the universe is reflective, so it's not hard to get hoodwinked by the idea that you could be something other than perfect. You know you've got plenty of evidence, yes? We all do, right? We've got plenty of evidence that, no, I'm not perfect. But then maybe you are. So what really takes place here to move across this bridge is called a miracle. And this is really what A Course in Miracles is about. It's about helping us to see this self, and as my wife says, what is it? Cunning and baffling
And powerful.
and powerful. Because what power does it have? Your power. You give your power to it. And if you think that this mind, this ego self, is powerful, what was it you said, David? You can't make a friend out of it, or when you came in, you were saying, you can't attack it. You can't really make a friend out of it either. I mean, it's just because it's telling us that it's us, but then again, it is nothing other than because of the power that we give it, right? So this is a thought system. It's a thought system, an old world thought system. And what we have over here on this side in the new world is also a thought system. And so a miracle is a shift of perception out of the mind of fear into the heart of love. And when you shift into this, over here, we are joined. We've heard that term, joined in spirit. Well, you're joined all the time. But when you're focused out this way, you're in the land of separation. The world of separation. It's just a construct. It's just an idea that you hold. And maybe, I don't know, a few billion other people, which makes it seem pretty damn real, right? But you're the creator, and so all these constructs, all these beliefs, all these ideas, and all these filters that you've built up to kind of protect yourself from this energy called fear. This is what prepares us, and as we move further and further out and more of our conditioning, we feel safer and safer and safer. We do feel safe in the old world. We know how the world works, for the most part. You buy your clothes at the right place, your food at the right place, your car's at the right place, you go looking for your spouse in the right place, or your friendships, or whatever. I mean, we know how the world works, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we've built a construct of filters that block, literally, our journey back to our true innocence. Because each one of these is built on a foundation of fear. So this is really would be a quantum shift from fear to love. And it's not something that this self, I call it the ego, but we could just call it the small self. It's not something that the small self is capable of doing. If anything, it wants you to look this way, not that way. It wants you to give it all of your attention, okay? And so the aspects of the ego, and there are many more than just these three that I've pointed out, but the skeptic, the protector, the controller, are constantly talking to you, chattering, screaming most of the time. You better watch out, you got to do this, you got to do that, blah, 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 all day long. It's just mind chatter. Thousands and thousands of thoughts every day stream through your consciousness that are coming from a foundation of fear. So is it any wonder that everybody we encounter is talking all the time about all the things that need to be fixed? Some people are happy about their economics, but they're afraid they can't hold on to it. Other people are desperate to improve their economics and afraid they never will. Some people are happy about the political system in our country or in the country where they live. And other people are horrified about the political system in our country or where they live. I've heard this expression over and over. I love my country, but I fear my government. But we have to leave all of this behind, and we have to move into a place here at the very center of our being where we can get in touch with our higher self, our true self. So, of course, the Miracles refers to it as the Holy Spirit, but it's nothing more than your right mind. And so by practicing walking over this bridge here in our little walkway, by practicing making this journey continuously to the altar, to the center of our being, and of course, Miracles, that's called the Holy Instant. And what he's telling us there is, number one, if all of this, or if all of these filters, if all of this is your ideas, your belief systems, then first and foremost, you have to take responsibility. You have to say, no matter how you're feeling, no matter what it is that you're feeling about anything that's going on, you have to admit to yourself that you are the one that's giving everything through your filter system all the meaning that it has, good or bad. Because one of our tenets is all events are neutral. Almost all events are neutral, right? No. All events are neutral. The universe is absolutely neutral. It has no power, none. It's an expression, it's a reflection of you and your brothers and sisters. And so would it make sense that the more of us that are entrained and, if I can say, imprisoned or entrapped by this thinking mind, this thought system, it goes to, it just goes to reason, doesn't it? That we're experiencing a lot more chaos in the world, violence, hatred, anger, fear, depression, anxiety, shame, guilt. There's a whole list of attributes that take us deeper and deeper and deeper into this mind of fear. But the interesting thing about it is, see, that like thousands of people in this energy, that energy can be overwhelmed by just one person in this energy. Because when you let go of that, when you're no longer giving it your power, number one, you weaken it. And number two, this energy is way, way, way more powerful. And you know that because you've been in love, right? And you just throw your whole life away for the person that shows up and, I can't even eat. It overwhelms us, right? One person that we love can make us throw out family, religion. I don't go to church anymore. My wife don't like that place over there. We'll throw it all out. Because this thing is really, really powerful. But it's not the kind of love that this mind can grasp, so it makes up a false idea of what it is. And so in A Course in Miracles, we're going to take a journey, if you hang with us, and we'll get through this in 5 or 6 or 7 years, no problem.
Yeah.
But we'll go take a journey through looking at ourself, this aspect, so that we're no longer fooled. And we can notice when it's trying to hook us and limit us and keep us from feeling and experiencing this beautiful love of God and our own perfection, our own power. Because you can't take any of this with you, right? None of it can be yours. For our brother Jesus Christ, the very last hurdle for him was, oh, here's another big one. We'll put that up there. Death. The fear of death of the body, right? So, he staged an entire demonstration, He was a multitasker. Right? I'm going to show my disciples that I'm not a body, and I'm going to overcome the fear of death, all in one. So let me set this up. Let's change the world. Let's show the world that we are not what we think we are. We are not separate. We're actually joined in truth with the Holy Spirit, our higher self, our true self, and together we can begin to experience and create a new world. It's been called the real world. And of Course in Miracles, he refers to it as the real world. Where can you experience it? Do you go somewhere? No, you don't even have to leave the seat you're in. You start experiencing it right where you are. And you start creating and experiencing a whole different world, because the fear and the levels of fear that we can experience over here begin to just not be in our... You cannot drive your car looking at your rearview mirror all the time. Right? You've got to look at where you're going. And so what's in the rearview mirror just keeps fading further and further back, which is pretty cool. So when you stay focused, when that, what is it, the single eye, or the, what do you call it?
My eye is single.
If my eye is single,
My whole body is filled with light.
my whole body is filled with light. If my eye is single, I'm not looking back here. I'm not listening to that. Get thee behind me. I'm not listening to that. Not listening to that. So another word that comes up here is Christ. So Barbara Christ, when she introduces herself to people, that's what she says. I am Barbara Christ. Right? I think it's a good idea. It pushes your buttons and theirs. Right? Another word that I like to use comes from, and I always, I never can pronounce it. Melchizedek?
Oh, Melchizedek.
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 You guys know this
I was
entity or
thinking
this
you might know.
master? Way back, I'll give some more history, but he's channeling through, they're channeling this energy through Paul Selig, and he's written a series of books. And so I like, because this is all the same thing, but he defines the word, in the beginning there was word, right? That was you. So you're God's first creation. And I'll put another caveat on that. You're God's only creation. Where'd all the rest of this stuff come from? You. Yeah, you made that catch. You know you did. And it showed up in your life. Love you. So in this old world, we don't recognize our creations. We can't see them. But they await our awakening and become available to us when we open up our eyes. You've heard the term, remove the scales from your eyes, and, beyond the veil, stuff like that. So, word, as I'm going to get this, I'm going to start working on the pronunciation. As I like to use it, is the energy of the Creator in action. So we go through a ritual, something that she's been, you've been sharing from the platform on Sundays.
Sometimes, yeah.
And I shared it in some of our spiritual alchemy classes that we've been doing this since November, I think, spiritual alchemy. So we've had some really great conversations, had some fun. But it goes along the lines of, I know who you are. Who are you? Child of God. I know what you are. What are you? The embodiment of the energy of love. You are the embodiment of love. That's what you are. Who you are is a child of God. What you are is the embodiment, the physical embodiment of love. That's what the body was created to express. When you see me, you see the Father. Okay? I am a communication channel for love. And how do you serve? How do you serve? You serve by being the embodiment of love in expression, which is what we do here. Right? That's what we do here. So I'm going to say 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and 1 and 2. So you guys look at each other, turn your chairs, connect with each other. We're going to go through a little process because my wife likes processes. Okay, so let's all take a good deep breath. And the 1 to the 2. I know who you are. Let's do it again. I know who you are. I know who you are. I know what you are. I know how you serve. Word, I am word. Word, I am word. Word, I am word. through the one I see before me. Now, I say this to you. Word is the energy of the Creator in action. Word is the energy of Christ in action. Word is who you are, what you are, as you are. Okay, 2 to the 1. I know who you are. I know what you are. I know how you serve. Word, I am word. Word, I am word. Through the one I see before me. Word, I am word. You feel this, yes? Yes. It's absolutely an energy that we can feel. Because it's an attunement. We have raised our consciousness. Because you are making a connection with your brother and sister where you're right here as this innocent child of God. You're seeing their innocence. You're experiencing their innocence. You're not. Did you feel any fear? Oh, hell no. You can't. There's no place for it. We just went through all of the filter systems and came to the center of our being and expressed ourselves as love. That's being in service. It changes everything. And we don't have to do anything else. There's really nothing else to do. One of the tenets, of course, in miracles is, fortunately and unfortunately, is you need do nothing. What are we going to do now? Right? Because I got all these things over here that are like magnets that are pulling at me through this filter of fear, this final one. If I don't do this shit, I'm going to die. Right? I've got to eat. Really? Well, you're not a body. Right? If you want to take care of the body, love the body, then you can do that with love, but you don't have to do it with fear. Right? So the holy instant is a practice of coming to center, catching our breath, taking responsibility for this filter system that we've created, because you're so powerful. You really are very, very powerful. And you say, and you turn to the center, I release this idea that's manifesting or providing an energy of fear. Because it's just an idea, and I can surrender fear. I can release the idea of fear. It's just a damned idea. And you're all powerful. You can let it go. The second step, after you've taken responsibility, is to simply release it. And you say, okay, I'm giving this over to you. You have just joined in mind with the Holy Spirit, your higher self. Nothing more than your right mind, your true self, your divinity. It's holding your divinity in trust while you dabble with your filter system, with the ego construct. You're divine. You're perfect, neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it. And you must see yourself therefrom, because that is the truth of your being. I know who you are. I know what you are. I know how you serve. I know the truth of you. And when I meet you there, and you meet me there, none of this has any presence. It's just not there. I mean, you can give it your attention, but you got to literally turn around from this energy of love. You have to abandon this. But here's the cool thing. If you can abandon this, you can abandon this. It's just making a turn. It's a miracle because it's a sudden shift of perception. So throughout A Course in Miracles, I'll refer to the Course in Miracles as a miracle as a sudden shift of perception. I'm turning my back. I'm ignoring thoughts of fear. Whatever it is, a judgment of anything at any time, anywhere, is a thought of fear. Now, I know that we take great pride in our thinking capacity, but I got some bad news. The truth is, God didn't create you as a thinker. So let me think about that. Right? You're not a thinker. But it's the favorite game of the ego to think, judge, control, protect. Oh, I doubt that's true. Skeptic. And a whole list of voices that are chattering away, validating and providing truth to the belief that there's something in the world that you're here to fix. You're not here to fix the world. You're here to love the world. If you're judging the world, you're not loving it. Not in the least. If you're making sacrifices for the world, you're not loving it. There is no sacrifice in love. God's not judging a world. He didn't create it. You did. And he's not going to take away your power by fixing it for you. You're the one that made the damn mess, so you're the one that's going to have to clean it up. How do you clean it up? Withdraw your judgment. And you begin to see a new world. It's within your grasp. It's within your sight. And it's available to you in this life, right now, as you begin to be the expression of love. You become the true servant. And only the enlightened one, if you will, the one who comes to center and joins with the mind of love, can really serve the world. Because this self will tell you exactly, with all certainty, with absolutely no ambiguity, no doubt, no confusion, how to be the perfect expression of love. Because you're not thinking it up. You're not defining what it is. You're not trying to figure out whether or not you're worthy of it or it's going to work or not. You're not doing any of those things. You're basically shutting up, which is really hard to do. Because it requires you to be the vessel, to be the channel, to be the embodiment, of what you are, the physical embodiment, to be the expression through this embodiment as what you are. It's a child of God. Right? So it's not the thinking self, it's the self that's joined with the voice of love. And of course, Miracles, he refers to it as the voice of God. Capital V, voice of God.
Is it a feeling self?
Feeling, yeah, you know, it's love itself is an energy, and our body is like a sensor, as you already know, right? We feel through the body, but the energy of love it resonates through the body. It doesn't come from the body; it comes through the body, right? It's everywhere, all the time.
The reason I ask is because that's what I've always heard. So feeling, you need to feel it. But what I'm finding as I work with it, it's more of a being, it's not like, because feeling can get all egoic. You know what I mean?
It
It's
can,
more,
right.
it's just the loving someone, just being and being loved.
Okay.
I almost can't describe it. It's
Well,
fascinating because it's playing out at my work because I'm allowing it to. When you just said, how do you clean up that mess? Withdraw your judgment.
mm-hmm.
And I'm playing with that at work. And it's just giving me tons of examples
Yeah.
of how I'd much rather say my boss did it. This sucks. This is a bad job. I need to leave it, blah, blah, blah. But I'm creating it. And when I start withdrawing my judgment of it, then I just be. It's hard to describe. Just be still and know I am God.
Okay. I like where you're going. So when we look at this ego self, we have a ton of labels that we call emotions, right? We even say that love, the emotion of love, right? But the truth is there's only two emotions, right? There's only two. There's fear and love. Everything else in the ego mind is a construct of fear. And so we have a whole list, and I labeled a few already. I talked about depression. I talked about anxiety. I talked about hatred. right? I talked about fear itself is an energy that you can feel contract your body, so your body responds to it, right? And we've seen, I mean, there's these plants, where were we? In Hawaii or somewhere, but if you touch these plants, they would all just almost like disappear. Wasn't that a Hawaii thing? And it was kind of cool. You're walking through the forest, and if you touch one, the whole area just kind of almost like it disappears. They're blooming and they're pretty, and then just like that, they're gone. We do the same thing, right? It's not quite as visible to the outside world, but we sure as hell can feel it on the inside, right? And we can say, well, that's an emotion. Well, no, it's actually an effect of one emotion, right? But I like to talk in terms of frequency or vibration. So when I feel, quote unquote, a frequency shift, I can recognize it, right? When we did our attunement a few minutes ago, you felt a frequency shift. You then are the resonator. You're holding the energy, you're holding the frequency, you're holding the vibration. It's almost like a song. It is a song, in fact. We could call it an octave, right? And so you raise to a higher octave, which is a vibration. When we had a piano and I hit the chord, it's a string, it's a resonance of frequency of vibration, and we can tune it into a specific octave. So when somebody gets in your face, gives you some trouble, it's a frequency. And you attune to it or not. You go to the center. You make a connection. You give it away. Say, I don't like this damn feeling. I'll take responsibility for it. I attuned myself to it, but I'm going to give it to you. What is the truth? What's the truth? And then this voice, you tune it in. This voice begins to literally communicate and inform you in many, many ways. Whatever way works best for you, because you're the one that's got the filter system, right? Your filter system is not the same as mine. Gender, different frequency. The women in the room have a different filter system than the men in the room, period. Right? But the point is, whatever your frequency system is, your higher self, which is your right mind, it's like you, when you dream at night, your dreaming self doesn't know you're watching in, and you're watching all the dreams and all the stuff that's happening, and it's not even conscious that you're safe at home in bed. It has no idea what you're going to do today when you got up. It's on its own little journey of drama. But you were there all night long. You're right there, peering in, right? So you know exactly what the dreaming self was dreaming, and when you wake up, you go, oh, that was just a dream. It doesn't mean anything. Dreams have no effect. I mean, don't mean a damn thing. Well, except for what I give them, right? Because it's a series of events. In my dreams, it's an event, so I'm giving everything all the meaning that it has, yes? And when I wake up, I dismiss all of those meanings because I go, well, that was just a dream, so it doesn't matter. And you think this is real. But your right mind, your true self is like, no, it's not. And I can see all your bullshit. It's not real. And you think it's real, and you're giving all this horrible meaning to this thing, and these people are doing this to you, and you're a victim, or you are the successor, or you're the president, or you're whatever. Doesn't matter. Whatever you're expressing as, but your right mind is never absent. And so it knows all of the filters that you've built to protect yourself from the voice of love. And it can work and get through those filters. Sometimes it might be a bumper sticker on a car, and you read it and go, oh shit, bam, and it resonates with you in a way and you get the message, right? Sometimes you can hear sound, you can hear ringing in your ears. Sometimes you might be getting a little dizzy. You're walking around, you know, what is that? I'm getting a little dizzy, whatever. Your body is attuning. As you're starting to practice this, your body will begin to attune to this new octave. And, in these spiritual groups, of course, we all, God's loving and this is all going to be great. But no, it's kind of painful. Imagine being drawn through the eye of a needle. Yes? Sounds a little painful to me. You're getting hemmed in to a brand new thought system. And make no mistake, you can only experience this new world and enjoy this new thought system at the cost of the old thought system. There's no neutral. You can't ride the fence. Of course, when we first start out, it feels like we're over like walking over what's that place we were going to go to out in the, we went to Santa Fe and we were going to go, the Grand Canyon. So imagine a tightrope across the Grand Canyon. And you're supposed to, you know, I don't think I'm going to do that, right? That's what it feels like, really, because what are you putting your faith in? You can't see it. And you can see this, man, we can just read the paper, log into your favorite YouTube channel, Facebook, 6 o'clock news, whatever. It's very visible. This was like a 20-yard wide, right? And you're just walking out through there, no problem. But when you're walking across the Grand Canyon for the first time on a tightrope, then you're going to be very circumspect, right? But as you continue to practice, the Holy Spirit, nothing more than your right mind, begins to partner with you and hold you steady. And it's like your pathway begins to widen. It just gets easier and easier and easier. And now you're walking right across the middle of the Grand Canyon. You don't give a shit because you know you're cool. There's nothing to be, why? There's no fear. When you first take those first few steps, however, the conditioning is very present. It's very, very present. So for the first few years in our journey together, we're going to venture into seeing this self, understanding this self, knowing this self. And people have referred to it as the dark ink. Well, get over it. There's plenty of dark ink out there. It's called the 6 o'clock news.
I'd like to speak to
Right?
I'd like to speak to that when you have a second.
We'll go for it.
So the dark, and so when we read the Course in Miracles, the dark ink, and Tony and I were teaching a class, and there was a lot of criticism about it. The value I find in the dark ink is it wakes me up to seeing it, because, as we said earlier, that ego mind, the mind of separation, is cunning and baffling. And guess what? It knows you're taking spiritual classes, and it learns its lingo. And so it can like kind of con you and change up on you. And when you see it, the subtlety of it, it's like, whoa. So it is really, that dark ink is really there to reveal it to us so that we can see it. And I think it's very dramatic, but isn't that all really quite dramatic? And it takes no prisoners.
Or it takes
about
all prisoners, right?
It takes it's about its own survival, and so it's kicking butt like it has got to survive.
Right. And it always reveals itself as us. It's
Yeah.
like me, I.
And when I said cunning, baffling, and powerful, those who are in 12-step, they talk about addiction as cunning, baffling, and powerful. And the using those terms, and as I was doing that process, I'm like, oh gosh, that sounds like the ego to me. You know, that sounds like that. And the powerful part is it will masquerade. It's not true power, but it seems powerful when you're under the influence of it. It's very hard to see and hear the voice of love when you're under the influence of the voice of fear. So it does feel like it has power, but it's not a real power.
Well, it displays itself as powerful because of the experiences we have out here, right? Sadness, sorrow, and fear, because of the things we see in the world, in the old world, which are horrific, really, because they're showing the ego its ugly nature, if you will. It acts out all the time in a way that it can be seen on the 6 o'clock news. So I would do this for the people that are streaming with us. Nobody's ever seen this before, except you.
That's too close.
So I hope it makes sense to you. I'll do it again.
Go further back. There.
Yeah, the lighting is really terrible.
Yeah.
So I'll take a picture with my other camera.
Sure.
And I'll put it on, and I'll modify the stream a little bit. But I want to get this out to more people. I think more people would like to join in the conversation, and if they can't, if they're not in the neighborhood, you know, then they can plug in.
We have a whole Toledo crew that would love to join, too.
So some of the things that I want to talk about is just to identify this self a little better, is that this is the God self. So I know you don't go around introducing yourself as God. Well, maybe you do to your children, but it is your God self. You and God are one. Right? So we're moving from duality. In the Course in Miracles, we move from duality, the old world, to semi-non-duality. We're starting to get here in contact and connection with our inner voice at the inner altar, to non-duality, and then ultimately to pure non-duality. So pure non-duality is simply God is. There is nothing else. You're not experiencing anything else. You never have, and you never will. That's all there is. Underneath everything that we experience, it's only happening because there is love, or the desire for love, and people are responding, we're responding and reacting to that sense of lack, or that desire for that abundance, in one way or another. All of the fears that we're expressing and being, and if you have no doubt that we are expressing beings, you know, just look around, right, at all the stuff that people are expressing all the time. It's very, very interesting. So this is also, you know, over here we got these ego concepts of aspects, but over here we can say this is the knower. Over here we had the believer, where we had a belief system which implies a believer, right? But even those constructs are lies. You're not a believer. Not in truth. In truth, you're the knower. Right? And so, if you had a friend that knew everything, literally, could never make a mistake, literally, before you were going to make any decision, wouldn't you want to call them up and just say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, you know, I'm thinking. So, what do you think? Wouldn't that be cool? Okay, well, just cross over the bridge. It's just a little miracle away. And what are you getting in touch with? What are you getting in contact with? What are you joining? What are you melding with? Yourself. You're totally selfish. That's a good thing, right? Because you're focusing on this knower, this capital K knower, this true self. And it certainly is available. And when you're ignoring it, it's not going to bug you. Well, maybe a little bit. We call that intuition. But it's always gentle. A little nudge. You don't really want to do that, do you, to that person? Is that loving? You know, when we start hearing that little voice saying you don't want to, or you should, or whatever, it doesn't really say you should. It just raises questions sometimes. And we know it is in that little inner voice, this little inner guided system. And along with that, you have this entire entourage of entities that are loving with you, that are beyond the capacity for us to grasp as humans. The best way I can explain it to you is you have an entourage of angels, and they are with you at wherever you go. And they've got this whole section filled up tonight. Have you noticed? And when you leave here, they leave with you. They're always with you. And they're also guiding and nudging, clearing the way. Claudia was telling me that an example that I'll use is like you see those guys in the Olympics, and they're curling. You know what curling is? Where they got this thing, and then the guy that gets out in front of it, and he's, you know, they're brushing it.
Here, let's do it.
Can we do it?
Which one are you?
You want to be the curler?
Yeah. And I'm like, there's this metal thing that's going to go,
Yeah.
and it's going towards a bullseye, and
Yeah.
you're doing
My job
this.
is to clear the way for
Clear
it.
the way.
So really, we're kind of doing that
I used to
together
watch
here.
that up. I
right?
would too.
We're kind of curling, right? Really, what your angels are doing is clearing the way for you. They're just getting little obstacles out of the way and giving you these little nudges. You're not alone. You've never been alone. It's impossible for you to be alone. So congratulations. You have a wonderful, beautiful entourage, and they are here tonight, celebrating that you're here. So for those at home, you want to see where they at? They're over here. Can you not see them? You see them over here in the seating section off to the left, just cheering. Look at them, they're waving. It's amazing. By the way, Spirit is never really serious. Damn it! Everything's a big joke to Spirit because we think there's a bunch of serious stuff going on. Well, it's not. Only the ego can trick you into that corner. There's really nothing going on. All events are neutral. Yes? All events are neutral. So, this was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I think, I wanted to share the last thing here with you. It's kind of a step, and I'm going to say enlightenment is a term we've all heard. Yes? So enlightenment comes when you begin to understand spiritual principle. All events are neutral. Dreams have no effect. God guarantees your sinlessness. You need do nothing. Etc., etc. We've got a bunch of them. So if you can begin to absorb those spiritual principles, you become lighter, literally, and brighter. I mean, really, shit doesn't bother you as much. You become an enlightened being, right? And as you continue on your journey, and you continue to do this work, and yes, it takes work. You have to grab this content, you have to embrace this content so that your inner self, your higher self, your right mind, your guides, and your entourage can begin to inform your experience through the library that you're building through your work, right? If you're going to be a surgeon, I don't want you operating on me on your first day of school, okay? I would rather wait till you get that certificate on the wall that says he's an enlightened surgeon. He did the work, right? But the next step that I would like to kind of map out for you, I want to call realization. You begin to realize who you are, the truth. It's one thing to be enlightened about it. It's something else to be realized. It's a different octave. It's a different energy. It's overwhelming, but it's well worth the ride. And in A Course in Miracles, that realization begins to open up a channel of communication that becomes more and more and more profound. More and more and more. You begin to notice that you're staying in that higher octave. You begin to notice that there's a vibration of communication that's coming through, taking on different forms, whether it's the bumper sticker or an actual all-out conversation. Or maybe somebody showing up in your dreams at night. And you're having spiritual conversation with people in your dreams at night. Or you're experiencing lucid dreams, where you wake up in the dream. And you begin to realize dreams really have no effect. And so that's what being lucid is in this experience as a dream. You begin to wake up and realize who and what you are, that this is just an illusion, a fabrication, and it begins to oscillate, it begins to vibrate, you begin to notice that it's really kind of moving around. It's not stable at all. It moves and it flexes. It's a new world beginning to take shape. I want to call that realization. And this is a communication between you and yourself. Literally, your higher self. We could call it the Christ consciousness, if you will. Ultimately, then, the last step is when all of us together as brothers and sisters wake up and become fully realized as who and what we are. Then we have created heaven on earth. And we're in the process of it. And there's many, many, many more things yet to be created, but this is our first goal here now. And so for the last 10,000 years, we've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten our name. We feel cast into darkness. But we're waking up and beginning to realize, because more and more and more the communication is coming through beyond the veil, because we're opening up and creating the channels for that communication to be heard. That's called realization. Two-way communication. But there is another step that the Course refers to, and it is the one that he requires or says that we should reserve awe for. And it's called revelation. Revelation is a direct one-way communication between you and the source, your creator. And that's not an experience that you're going to want to have this evening, because it blow your, you can have a psychotic break, because it just, imagine all of your belief systems being shattered at once. That's not something that you really, it's okay if we, maybe we'll quit listening to the media, and we'll kind of turn the TV off and not paying so much attention to the news. I can handle that for a while. That's not too big. I'm not going to break down and cry because I can't hear the news tonight, right? I can get through that one. But you see, slowly but surely, we begin to say, wait a minute, maybe my teachers didn't know everything they thought they knew. Maybe they were kind of caught up in the same construct. And I can begin to let go, maybe even of some of the religious indoctrination that I had. And I know some of you have already done that. So a little at a time, you see, it's kind of like for me, wading in from the shallow end before I learn how to swim. I'd like to kind of wade in a little bit. Don't drop me off in the middle of the ocean. I'm not quite ready for that. Right? Some people have had some pretty horrific experiences of a psychotic break or a collapse of this ego construct. But that's their path, and that's worked for them. But I'm choosing to read this book and talk about this with you and help you get to the point where when you're reading the book, you hear it's talking to you directly to you, because that's what it was for. That's what it was created for. But for me, when I first got connected with it, I couldn't understand a damn thing it was saying, right? Because almost everything that I'm sharing with you tonight is in between the lines, so to speak. But so what I try to do here in our course group is to build a foundation so that when you're reading it, you're going, oh, that's what he was talking about. That's where that was at. And it's not about me at all. It's really not. Please don't believe anything I say. Find out for yourself. And I love a challenge. I love a good challenge. So bring it on, right? Because we can have some great conversations when some of these filters and some of the resistance that you're feeling and some of your beliefs and your ideas just bubble up, and it can be overwhelming. But it doesn't have to be. We're here to help you and support you. I call this the graduate study of spirituality. But there's more. There's the graduate study, and then there's the doctorate study, right? And then there's enlightenment, and then there's realization, and then there's revelation. And guess what? There's more after that. So let's take some steps together on the journey through A Course in Miracles. I will tell you that there's more. And as we get through the next weeks and months together, there'll be other material that you're going to be going, well, let's go a little deeper, let's go here, let's look at this. And we'll be able to look at this same information. We'll just like changing seats around the table, right? We'll be able to look at this information from a different perspective to help deepen our understanding of it. And then we go back to this again and go, oh, it was there all along, I just didn't see it. And this other information helped me to mine that gold out of there. And it's full of gold. It's full of love. Now, it's written somewhat in more traditional Christian language. There's things in there like the Holy Spirit, but it's redefined. It's not an entity or a God that's different or better than you. It is you. It's the part of you, like the part of you that doesn't go to sleep and knows that you're safe and home in bed, and you can have an experience of lucidity in that dream. You can be lucid in that dream. You can wake up in the morning and know exactly, yes, I was in Nashville. Yeah, I'm still there. And you know who you're sleeping with. It's great. You wake up and you know who's there. Right? That's dreaming stuff doesn't even know that. So you can begin then to experience becoming more enlightened, more lucid in this dream, and that mind, that higher self, nothing more than your right mind, is what he refers to in Course in Miracles as the Holy Spirit. And it is your divinity, held in trust while you dabble with the ego. Let's see. I think about got it on in there. I just want to say that this is indeed a paradigm shift. I don't have, we got a couple of minutes. I'll share this with you. Let's say that you're on a bus, and you've had a long day, and you're busy, and you're tired, and you're thinking about your work and all the stuff you got to do, and you're trying to get home. And there's this guy that comes on board the bus or the train or whatever, and he's got 2 or 3 kids, and he just sits down, and these kids just start running around, and they're just yanking and pulling and grabbing and flying around all over the place and just screaming and yelling. It's just irritating the shit out of you, and you're like, oh my God, what is this? This is so rude. This is crazy. And so you finally you can't take it anymore, and you get his attention, and you go, hey, I don't mean to be mean, but can you do something about your kids? And he looks at you and he said, oh, I'm sorry. He said, my wife died today. I lost focus. Did you have a paradigm shift? Yes, you did. This is a paradigm shift. This only comes at the cost of the old way of thinking that we know, because we don't know. But there's a part of us that does know. But until we get in touch with it, it's out of our reach. This part of us will never be able to reach this part of us because it's not really us. This is you. Okay? So you got anything? Complaints, gripes, and groans, and
Stuff.
Do we have assignments each week that we come that
Yes.
you want us to work on?
yes,
Do we have a workbook?
yes. You go
What is
within.
the book?
It's a book. So this is called A Course in Miracles. And I have 2 copies back there just for you. Because you never want the other person to get your book, because if you get mine, you'll see that I don't really have any markings in it, but if you get Claudia's,
Oh. What I thought, Claudia.
if you get Claudia's, you'll see that it's just full of,
So each of us will have their own.
Well, that's how we have to be, because I annihilate books.
I've seen some of your
And I
books.
write in them, and that's
I
how
do
I
too.
know where to
Okay.
find
I'm
stuff.
I'm being facetious, but there is a book. So let me tell you a great question. Thank you for asking. The course is 3 books in one. This is called the Urtext version, and I won't get into that for the second time, but this has the original. This is kind of like the original edition, if you will, before anything was taken out of it or it was manipulated too much. And so there is a textbook, and the textbook is about the first half of the book. Okay, and then you'll see the numbers will drop back to 1. And when you get to the 1 again, the number 1, the first page again, you're in the workbook. And the workbook is a series of lessons. 365, which is very convenient since there's only 365 work days in a year. Can't talk. And when you get to that part, the only recommendation that he gives you is to do 1 lesson a day at most, right? And if you need to take more time with it, take more time with it. There's no hurry. It took me 2.5 years to get through the workbooks, but I typed it all up. I typed up every word in there and put it on the internet and put it on so it would come to my phone every other day. I would get another lesson, right? But I went through the textbook 5 times in the first year, and I thought, oh, I'm really getting this. And by the time I got to about the 5th or 6th year, I realized, I don't know shit, man. I didn't get it at all, right? But I got enough of it that I couldn't put it down. It began to inform my life and change my life. And I've experienced a new world ever since. Really have. So that's the first 2 books, if you can call it that. The 3rd book is called The Manual for Teachers, and there's some terms and definitions in there And then there's also some other booklets that I'll bring into our discussion from time to time that were channeled. But this book, and I didn't share this with you, but I will, this book was scribed by Helen Schockman, and she was receiving this from this entity who told her, he started out by saying, this is A Course in Miracles, please take note. And she freaked out, and she started talking to her boss actually at work, and William Theffer, and anyway, at the end of the day, she finally relinquished and said, okay, who is this? Because he just kept saying, this is A Course in Miracles, please take note. And the voice said, oh, this is Jesus Christ. And then she goes, oh my God. And so then she goes back to Bill and she says, I know I'm losing my mind now. Because I'm not religious and I'm not spiritual and Jesus
She was
is no way in
raised
hell."
Jewish.
She
She was
was.
Jewish,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, there's no way in hell and Jesus is talking to me, right? So anyway.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Bill told her to persist, and 7 years later, we have a scribed teaching from Jesus, who basically said, I couldn't teach you this 2,000 years ago because you were still in kindergarten, and you finally graduated to the first grade, basically. We're just beginning. But at least we can understand a little bit more now than we could then. And we've had many great teachers in the last 50, 60 years since this came into existence, published in 1975. So now we're about 45 years in. Okay.
I just want 1 minute.
Please.
So we have students in here who have studied with us in a lot of different classes. So what I want to say, and the I don't know if it's a challenge, but so when you look at this, you know, I want you to think of, how do levels of consciousness come into play here? How does the creative process come into play here? How does spiritual mind treatment come into play here? Because one of the things that Tony and I do is that we bring together a lot of different teachings. And what we have found is that truth is true wherever we find it. Sometimes the pathways in the curriculum is a little bit different, but in a way they're saying the same thing. And so what we do is, and what I do, even I'm synthesizing all of these different teachings. And so this is consistent in my mind, and I can teach all of these consistent with the science of mind, consistent with everything that we teach in the science of mind, consistent with the way of mastery, which David has taken also. And then some of the other books that Tony mentioned, the Paul Selig books, I Am Word, and that attunement. And those are books that we want to bring forward in teachings but we synthesize them actually in our current teaching, all of these. And A Course of Love is another one.
Yeah. Huge. It's actually A Course in Miracles Part 2.
It's a continuation of A Course. So I just say that to, no matter where you prefer to be in your studies and in your teaching, all these pathways are good. They all correlate. They don't really contradict. And I think that
they support each other.
They really support each other. And so I'm so excited that you're doing this. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to say thank you for everyone at home that was kind of watching in what we were doing. My name's Brother T, and we're going to just keep doing this each week. I feel like that we could probably just keep going with it and see if this helps people that want to. I know there were a couple people that wanted to be here tonight and just couldn't make it. And so I'm going to live stream it every week, and then it'll be recorded on my YouTube channel. I think I have everybody's email address. If I don't, write your email address down. Leave it with me, and I'll send you out a link so you can get to my YouTube channel, or you may already have it, so don't worry about it. But I'll be live streamed there on my Brother T YouTube channel. And this is episode 1, and I'm just going to go episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, and you know, our 6 years down the road, we'll have a nice little library, right? And it's circuitous. Like last week, Susan and David and I and a couple other people, we actually started on chapter 31, right? Or not? No, I think it might have been 27. But it was we were talking about specialness.
Mm,
You know, and I could teach this from the back to the front.
yeah.
It's circuitous. It doesn't, because you're never gonna miss something. Well, I shouldn't say that, but you'll never be lost. Let me put it that way. You can jump in at any time, and I think with a little bit of experience, you'll be able to keep up. And I wanted to just share this model with you, just kind of give you a perspective of what our intention is. Because if we know who we are and why we're studying this course, then, and our goal is to get from the old world to the new world, and we have a map. It certainly helps us to know when we're, you know, touching these milestones, mile markers on that journey. And so I'm excited, I'm thrilled that you're here. So I'm going to close with a prayer. So let's take a good deep breath. Father, my freedom is in you alone. I did not understand what made me free, nor what my freedom is, nor where to look to find it. But Father, I've searched in vain until I heard your voice directing me. Now I would guide myself no more, for I have neither made nor understood the way to find my freedom. But I trust in you, Father. You, who endowed me with my freedom as your holy child, will not be lost to me. Your voice directs me, and the way to you is opening and clear to me at last. Father, my freedom is in you alone. Father, it is my will that I return. Today we answer for what the world, which would be freed along with us, how glad we are to find our freedom through the certain way our Father has established. And how sure it is all the world's salvation, when we learn our freedom, can be found in God alone. And so it is.
So it is.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. There are the two books, and I put the potato for the offering if anyone would like to contribute the potato.
How much are the books?